Welcome everybody again to a session for Propel Canada. Today we're going to have some fun talking about turning all the data jargon into ROI. Lots of three-letter acronyms around the topic today. Machine learning, ML, AI, ETL, all sorts of alphabet soup related to technologies that turn data into information and hopefully information into actionable intelligence. And today we're gonna dig into that a little further. If you just move the slides on, David. And again, hopefully this is the last of the strategic track sessions that we're running, but there are two more coming on the operational track. So for those of you in our WealthServe community, invite you to the Rep Vision and the support team sessions coming up in the next couple of weeks as we get through. And just so everybody knows, recordings are available on Propel Canada. If you Google that, you will find links and the ability to download any of the previous sessions if you're interested. So without further ado, I'm going to move on, David, and introduce you to David Libesman, who works at iPipeline as the AVP of Data Analytics. David's enthusiasm for this topic and the work that he does, I think I've never seen anyone surpass his energy levels, to be honest, and drive to make sense out of a topic he works on. So I'll let him introduce himself momentarily. And we're also very, very fortunate to have Dror Katzav with us, who is the CEO and co-founder of Atidot, who very, very capable Israeli-based technology company that turn data into actionable intelligence. And I'm not going to steal Dror's thunder because you're going to want to listen to him talk. But without further ado, I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to hand over to David to introduce himself before we go. And then have David, you pass on to Dror and then take us on our journey. Thank you very much, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for the time today. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you what iPipeline is up to with regards to turning data into actionable insights. Very excited about the things that we've done at our pipeline background. Been in the data analytics space for about 25 plus years. And in addition, I've actually been at our pipeline for about 4 years now, worked in multiple industries, fairly familiar with the wealth management, financial services and insurance space. And the stuff that we're doing is pretty exciting. So looking forward to sharing that with you today. So hand you over to Dror from an introduction perspective. I noticed there's also a spelling mistake there, Dror. I apologize. It's Dror Katzav, which is his last name. So didn't want to give you a new last name. Go ahead, Dror.
Thanks, David. And thank you, guys. And thank you, Simon, for inviting me. And thank you guys for giving us your time. But I'm very happy to be here today speaking about data and analytics. My name is Dror Katzav. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Atidot. My personal background is about 11 years in the Israeli intelligence building data solutions prior to launching Atidot. Atidot is an Israeli technology startup in the insurance space, in the life insurance space, founded in Israel in 2016. I moved to the US about 2 years ago to manage the North American operation. And Atidot is focused on AI, machine learning technology for the life insurance space, and specifically in leveraging data and in-force policyholders to better understand the customer, the product, distribution, and so on and so forth, to inform decision-making and improve results. We partnered with iPipeline almost 2 years ago, and very fortunate to do that. And together we're going to market with various products that we're going to share some of the insights during this presentation. David, back to you.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks, Dror. Wanted to kind of take you through a brief overview from a strategy perspective to give everyone how we see data, turning it into actionable information. The way we look at it, and a lot of our customers in North America, both from a distribution perspective and from a insurer's perspective, is to really understand the 360-degree view of the market. So if you're looking at understanding your producers, understanding where, what they're selling, what segments they're selling in, leading success factors, where you're looking at a customer, understanding the demographic and behavior of those customers, the propensity for them to buy and to stay, propensity for them to be cross-sold. In addition to that, understanding from the perspective of what products you're selling. Are you selling the right products at the right time to the right customer? What are your underwriting guidelines and underwriting processes in line with the industry? Are there bottlenecks, etc.? So really, there's a lot of different use cases. One of the things that we've done at iPipeline is we've partnered with certain key players they're in the space to kind of bring them into our universe. Atidot is one of our strategic partners on the machine learning side, and we're here today to kind of share with you what we've done, what we're doing, and kind of provide you a couple of key use cases that will allow you to identify opportunities to drive the ROI. One of the key things that we do at our pipeline is we see a big part of the industry, and we see it both from a distributor's perspective, from a carrier's perspective, and from a marketplace perspective. One thing that we are able to provide is insights that no one really else can provide to the marketplace. At the same time, to be able to allow our customers, both distributors and carriers, to be able to benchmark themselves at an industry level, at a product level, stay current in real time, look at everything from quote to enforce, and not only look at the past, but the present and the future. And while we do all this, we do this in a very secure fashion. And we have seen across the North American marketplace, we see the largest industry data set across our quoting platform, all the way to forms that get downloaded, illustrations that are run through our various different platforms, both on the e-app side as well as on the quoting side, e-apps that are being processed, as well as the annuity side. So we see both life and annuity business. And in addition to that, we see data that's been captured in both the distribution platforms and the carrier platforms, including our underwriting platform and our e-delivery platform. So all that data is just a whole bunch of information that gets collected. What we do with that information is we turn that into actionable insights across kind of what I would call 5 different swim lanes from a strategy point of view. The first one is around case analytics, which is really providing you insight to where you're winning or losing relative to your peers, if you are a carrier or a distributor, what products are selling better than others, what are your underwriting risk classes, or where you're losing business based on business that's not been taken. And in addition to this, we also provide you the insight into future prediction based on market condition changes, together with working with Atidot. So we have this rich data that's been collected, and we turn this into actionable insights from the perspective of cases that from submission to policy issue. In the underwriting side, we have our resident platform that can get very granular in relation to a lot more detailed insights at the very specific underwriting stage. The third swim lane is one that focuses on upsell and cross-sell use cases, and Dror's going to talk a lot more about this from the perspective of opportunity there with regards to the in-force block, as well as the ability to look at retention and acquisition. On the quote side, we're doing a lot in that area with regards to be able to provide insight to who's quoting, what they're quoting, where am I winning, where am I losing. And then the last piece of it is around the behavior analytics. We've partnered with a company called Formotive to provide insight into where are people abandoning e-apps, why are they abandoning them, and potentially fraud and anomaly detection. So that's kind of our platform from the perspective of a vision. From the looking at a couple of use cases, one of the things that we have been pretty excited to see is that distributors that are really taking advantage of using the platform on a regular day-by-day basis and turning data into actionable insights have seen dramatic increases in their premium, especially in the COVID world, relative to distributors that are not using analytics. We have seen a big uptick in e-app trend to 2019 versus 20 in the North American market, and this particular stat is on the US market. In Canada, you've actually seen a 25% increase. So that's actually a bigger increase than we're seeing in the US market. And the good thing about our pipeline is we see the US market, we see the Canadian market, we see the European market. We get a global perspective, and also we kind of can provide good insights across the board. In addition to that, we've actually seen a big increase in the COVID world of e-delivery trends. And that's obviously a nature of everyone's trying to go digital across the board, and we're seeing a lot of that occurring. But one of the things that we did see, which is interesting, is that, you know, pre-COVID to post-COVID. So we kind of looked at the data from, you know, pre-March to August. And we noticed that even though there was a drop in placement ratio, which is, you know, paid cases divided by complete submitted cases that had an outcome, so paid and / closed cases, we saw that our top 5 distributors in the marketplace that we serve saw an increase and maintained their market. They maintained their placement ratio, even though there was a drop overall, which turned into a clear number of gain in premium. So if you look at the stats up there, on the top 5, InsureSight, and InsureSight is as our pipeline's platform that is available to our customers on turning their data into actionable insights. They gain 7.3 million in premium versus top distributors across all of our customers actually lost 5.7 million. So the fact that these distributors actually paid and focused on making sure that they process their business, they focused on getting their placement ratio, maintaining their placement ratio, they turned that into real-time information. How they did that is, number one, continually looking at themselves versus their peers relative to placement ratio, and tracking that on a day-by-day basis to make sure that they are maintaining themselves above the trend and making sure that they do not lapse below that. The other piece of it is be able to look at the advisors that are doing business with them to make sure that the advisors that are doing business with them, number one, are giving them good business. Number two, are placing that business earlier and not handling business that gets lost as it obviously stays longer in the processing phase. And in addition to that, being able to track their advisors against their targets that they're setting. So what gets measured gets improved. And one of the things that we've seen is distributors being able to track this in real time have actually seen those impacts that we showed you. In addition to be able to look at it an advisor, because there's obviously multiple players involved, you need to also look at your case managers who are sitting there and processing that business to be able to see, are there areas that we need improvement, and where do I need to fine tune? Do I need to move caseloads around, etc. And in addition to that, the last part of the equation is my carriers, the actual people that actually process and provide me the offers. Am I actually in line with their cycle times in producing an offer back to me, or am I actually lower or better? And this is an indication of you being able to then dive in and deal with your carrier and say, why am I not getting the same service level if I'm bringing you X amount of premium? And so be able to focus on that. So you're obviously dealing with all the different players in getting a case paid and enforce, and be able to track everything in every single dimension is important. So therefore you maintain and get that premium process, because at the end of the day, process premium is improvement in profitability, maximizing your operational efficiency, and obviously bringing commission in the door, which is what everyone's really driving towards. So that's from a distributor's point of view. The one thing I mentioned earlier, we see distributors and carriers. So let's talk a little bit about carriers. And as I just noticed, there's actually, before I move on, sorry, I'm now going to hand over to Dror, who actually will talk a little bit about optimizing the results for distributors using predictive capabilities. Dror?
Thanks, David. So as David mentioned, there is a lot of data, distributor data that flows through the system. And one of the things that could be done with this data is actually build machine learning and AI capabilities on top of that. So just as a baselining, let's speak about what is AI and machine learning. So what you saw so far is data about a history that explains the past. What Atidot brings in is the algorithms that predict the future. So instead of looking into the past and seeing what happened last year, the previous year, and so on and so forth, you want to know where you need to be tomorrow and the next year, and be able to predict the future. If we look at various examples, you're all familiar with the Spotify example, the Spotify experience, where if you listen to one song, the platform tells you what other songs you would probably want to listen to, what other songs are recommended for you. If you go into Amazon, you would see other examples of products that you may also want to buy, because people like you are interested in buying as well. And all of those different things are basically algorithms that help you create consistency in the data, understand what people do, and predict the future behavior. The way we do it is with technology. So we have algorithms or robots that consume all this data and see how people interact with insurance. We get third-party data, such as census data, financial data, demographic data, all done with the right privacy and security measures. We get the data from the insurers, say 50,000, 300,000 lives, etc. And we also have, on top of that, the iPipeline data that David just mentioned. So this robot can consume as much data as it wants to create better and better predictions. And the better the data is, the better the prediction is. So you saw this chart earlier that shows the vast data that iPipeline has across different lines of product. All of this data goes into this algorithm as well, consumes much better knowledge than each one of the carriers or the distributors, each one of the insurers or the distributor can have by themselves, and create much better prediction by combining the largest industry data set with the right predictive algorithms, machine learning, and AI to create insights that speak to the policyholders and optimize the result. To take it for a second to a different perspective, you're all familiar with marketing segmentation. You're all familiar with young people in the city centers, families in the suburbs, aging families that live out of the cities, and so on and so forth. And those marketing segments usually have fancy names such as laptops and ladders, or soccer moms, or something else. Those segments don't speak the right insurance language. And the reason is that those segments never speak the language of, do you follow the markets? Do you want to take risk? Do you have guarantees in your policy? Do you have a lot of cash value? I can be a soccer mom that had purchased a policy 7 years ago and have a guarantee that is not achievable in today's market. I could be a laptop and ladder guy that understands financial markets and want to take risk, or a laptop and ladder guy that doesn't want to follow the market or doesn't want to take risk. And all of those things create a much more complex matrix of market segments with the insurance wisdom in it. And all of this is the work of the distributor, who is sitting with the clients, understand their needs, analyze their behavior, and so on and so forth. What algorithms do is provide additional insights to that to inform that process. So we can slice and dice the population and tell you what happened in other segments, in other cohorts, in other distributors, and so on and so forth. So we can turn laptops and lattes to the metrics that says this customer needs X amount of protection and X amount of retirement, and are interested in investment, or trying to do tax planning or estate planning, and so on and so forth. And with this knowledge, it's much easier to see through what other people are doing with other distributors or with other insurers in other places, that the right, the right insurance prescription for this person is that amount of term and a whole life, and maybe an annuity or a seg fund, or so on and so forth. Maybe a short-term disability. Maybe it also includes a conversion after 2 years from one product to another, or an upsell to a third product at a different point. And this prescription of your specific needs is also ties in all the lookalike analysis that we've seen earlier. So we can tell you that people like you should have had this amount of insurance at this point in time, and you have significantly less. You moved from a 2-bedroom in the city center to a 4-bedroom in the suburb. You moved from an area with bad schools to an area with good schools. We know what's going on with your life, therefore, and we know it statistically, obviously. We therefore can deduce what type of insurance you would need and what type of insurance people like you need or like you buy. And distributors do see a dramatic increase in conversion rate and closure rate of personalizing the experience to the customer.
Excellent, Dror. Thank you. So, that's you leveraging the predictive component. Let's turn around now and let's talk about a little bit about data-driven carrier, how data-driven carriers are optimizing their results. So, I'll use a specific example here where the market we see today for a particular carrier, there's 150 in annual premium in that market, 75 distributors, and more than 10 carriers. So this is a specific example. From a highlights perspective, the carriers' combined opportunity is between 8 to 15 million. So one of the things that we are able to do with obviously anonymizing the data is using the benchmark where we can identify that there's an opportunity for a carrier that there's $10 million by ramping 12 of their distributors to their 2019 market share. And the gap to get to be number one in a particular product line is a $6 million premium in 2020. The way we're able to do that is we know everyone's that we can see all the data, but we anonymize the detail, but then provide these key insights to allow it to become really actionable down to the point where we can also identify certain demographic information for this particular carrier. So there was $25 million in additional opportunities across certain example demographics, just to kind of highlight where there's like close to 10 million in 40 to 55-year-old male and females in this particular product section. And then the last piece is their biggest underwriting segment to grow is Preferred Plus, and that's 12 million. So what we had identified for this particular carrier, in essence, was that between 5 and 8 to 15 million dollars in business that they could get from 12 distributors, additional $6 million to get to number one, some more business for them to be focused on a specific segmentation analysis, and then from an underwriting point of view, be able to focus on where they should be focusing from the perspective of growing their premium. The backup to this was that for the distributors, we were able to identify that to ramp to a 33% is an $11 million opportunity. They sold $12 million in 12 distributors, but these distributors are selling more with others. So they're only 17% of that pool. So that's information, that was the blind spot that they didn't understand or they would never have known. So that was the ability to identify those 12 distributors, which is green, where they have the ability to get to the next level and get back their market share. There were 11 distributors where they sold 50% of their business, and these are people that love them, and they're getting a fairly good share of their wallet. So that's not necessarily someone that they need to. So those are not necessarily distributors they need to focus on. And then there were 33 distributors, small distributors who sell more with others. And the interesting thing over here is this kind of like gave them an insight to maybe their products are not visible enough, or not being their education's not as good as other carriers that are selling business in those distributors. So maybe there's an opportunity to focus at spending more time with those distributors to get some share of that wallet, even though it's a small number. If you look at the lifetime value of getting $1 million in premium, typically it's between 5 to 10 times the lifetime value of the first year premium. So there's a significant amount there. And then the last one on the right here, small distributors who sell small with you. There's not much I need to do there. And this gives you that opportunity to really identify that really the green is where I should be focusing, and the red is also an opportunity for me. And that's the kind of insight that we were able to provide. And by being able to provide that benchmark at a very specific, actionable level, all the way down to not only that, but also looking at, for example, age brackets. So here you see there's a $25 million opportunity for this particular carrier in the 25 to 30 age bracket. There's a $6 million opportunity there. 40 to 49, there's another 2.1, and 50 to 55, there's a 7 million. So of the 25, if I just focused at those three, that made up a big chunk. So it kind of allowed me as a carrier, allowed the carrier to really focus in and hone in their messaging, make sure their product launch that they're looking to do is going to gain back that market share and be able to provide that insight without necessarily disclosing the detailed insight of other carriers at a detail level. So those are important stats that will provide the segmentation analysis. In addition to that, we also provide not only the current situation, but also manage and measure that on a regular basis every day, as well as provide prediction with the Atidot algorithm to predict the future 4, 8, 12-week type insight into where things are going based on the historical perspective. So if you look at and then you look at a branch level for a particular distributor, you can kind of get down to the agent advisor level where you can see certain trending down, well, selling term with you versus versus others. Agents that are trending up, so there's nothing for me to worry about there. 12 trending down, where you're selling term with others, that you're not selling anything with you, and then your agents that you're trading up, you sold 0 out of that, and this is another area trading up, they'll sell term with others. So it gives you that kind of breakdown from that perspective. So it gives you those further insights as well, which allows you to take action and focus in on, from a carrier point of view, which MGA do I need to talk to and where do I need to go to basically make sure that I'm getting heard and make sure that I'm getting my share of the pot. In addition to that, from an operational insight perspective, this is another example where a carrier's sales dropped, so their wallet share was, they lost wallet share, and was picked up by competitors. Other wallet share, 3.7 million, was at a single distributor. Why was I down at the distributor? Because 2 million was less in submitted premium in 2020 out of the smaller pool of premium. And 1.5 million was less at that distributor from a place perspective. Breaking that down, you could see that by health class. You could see that where the APSs were ordered, and you can also see the cycle time difference and where I'm losing business based on that level. In addition to that, you're able to also see what is expected to happen in the next 4 to 8 weeks, and which segmentations am I seeing that I could potentially be have an issue, and that's what we use in the algorithm. So I'm going to hand over to Dror now to talk a little bit about how we use the historical data and the current data that's giving you those insights to then predict where you're going to be able to see future insights moving forward.
So I think if you think about it, there are 2 major takeaways here before we dive into the predictive insights. One is the way to think about the data. Many insurers have data teams and many distributors have data teams. The thing that is unique here is that the data comes from all across the market. So it's relatively easy to benchmark you against everybody else. See, where do I stand compared to number 1 in the market? Where do I stand compared to the average insurer in the market? And then on top of that, it provides you some kind of a scorecard. How much am I losing because of my relationship with distribution, because of my market share, because of my poor pricing, because of my underwriting, because of my marketing team, and because of my operations, because of APS ordering, and so on and so forth. And this all tells you what you could have done better and in what areas. But like you think about the electoral map, or how do you think about elections, we just saw that what's important in elections, especially in the US, but also in any other country, You don't go campaigning where you already won. You go campaigning where you can still make an influence. So same as David showed the quadrants, you want to focus your efforts on the distributors that you can still swing your way, the products that you can still swing your way, the market segments you can swing your way. So what is important is to know where things are trending. And what this report shows carriers that get this report on a weekly basis is where this map is going to. I am down X% at this distributor. Is the rest of the industry down even more than I am? Is the rest of the industry is down even less than I am? So I know that every year in November, December, this distributor gives me less of their business because it's the end of the year. But if everybody else is not as down as I am, it means that I have some kind of an issue there. Maybe if I'm, getting more of the share of the November, December timeframe, it's not as bad. And if I know in advance that in January it's going to jump right back because the models tell me that this is where it's heading, this is where the trend is going, then I get even additional insights. And then when I start analyzing that, I know that this distributor has a potential to grow in that product segment and that market segment and so on and so forth. And maybe I'm selling this product, maybe I'm not selling this product, but I am aware that this is a trend that goes on in the industry and what is my share out of the total pie for that product and that segment. So those reports are the type of reports that inform companies to change their strategy with distribution. So who are the distributors I need to meet and what do I need to tell them when I meet them? What part of the problems are mine and I'm taking ownership on them? This is my pricing, this is my APS ordering, this is my placement, and which ones are not? I'm actually doing better in cycle time than anybody else. I'm actually better in pricing than anybody else, and the issue is somewhere else. And as we go even further, it provides insights at a different level that insurers can use. And David, if you can flip to the next slide.
Sure. I think the important thing just to add here, Dror, is that all this information you're seeing here, these are not real stats. I just want to, this is just a mock-up of the report, and these are sample data. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, all the numbers you saw throughout the deck is all data we made specifically for this presentation with the same storyline of what the insurer actually did or the distributor actually did, but with different numbers to keep this privacy. If you go beyond that, there is a lot to be done on the info side. There is a lot of analysis that could be done on lapse and propensity to act one way or another, and premium persistency and so on and so forth. Many of those products are very sensitive to premium payment behavior. So being able to analyze that influence both the customer perspective as well as the balance sheet pricing perspective. So we do a lot of work in that area as well. And to tie all those ends together, basically what you see is the ability to take the data that sits on the distributor side or the insurer side, combine it with the data set that sits across the industry on the iPipeline side or public sources, and bring it all together into some kind of a coherent story that tells you where things are going. So for example, if we focus on this point for a second, being able to tell that a person that has a certain policy this policy might be underutilized. This person probably should have saved more at this point, or should have paid more premium, or should have bought different products. This means that this customer might be underinsured or overinsured, and their behavior with the product can inform dramatically the way you reach out to that customer and the way you act on those assets and liabilities based on that. David, you want to jump to the next slide?
Yeah. So we would like to thank everyone for the time. I know that, Simon, we've maybe finished a few minutes early. I think we had like 45 minutes. I don't know if anyone had any questions. I don't know how you handle this, Simon. So this is a first for us. I know you've been doing it quite a bit.
I know if anyone has any questions, then feel free to ask them now. But I think in this day and age, I want to thank everyone for their attendance and attention. And there's a poll going out now, which we thank you to answer. But if you have questions, now's a good time. If not, you can always follow up with me, and I can direct those to David and Dror. And I think no one's unhappy these days, David, to get 15, 20 minutes back from a perpetual Zoom meeting. So if we don't have any follow-ups, then...
David, this is Lisa. I've got one question for you that came in. How do you protect client data to ensure that it's secure?
A great question. Okay, that's a common question that comes up all the time. So two things is that when the data is the actual PII and detailed data is only accessible to the carrier or the distributor where they do business with each other. That's number one. Number two, the actual aggregated benchmark data is aggregated and anonymized and rolled up. So you're not necessarily able to see a specific carrier or a specific distributor. It's anonymized. But for example, seeing a percentage move or a percentage change, you're not going to be able to identify a specific carrier. So we do that in the back end. We do that in the platform. It's extremely secure. It's all in our cloud environment. It follows all of our pipeline security protocols, and that's how we protect it. And we're very, very consciously focused at that.
Thanks, David. Yes, obviously for us, security paramount to keeping our business's integrity. So, regular audits from the carriers, we're always on top of that all the time, and recognise it's a important moving aspect of the business that we're in. So, Dror and David, I just want to thank you again for your time, your contribution. Thanks for supporting the presentation. Great work, guys. And I think with the lack of questions, we can bid farewell to everyone, and thank you again for your time and attention.